My name is Hazel Sterling, and this is my RVA Art Talk 2023. Sonja Bäumel is a microbiology-inspired artist based out of Amsterdam, whose work can only be described as extraordinary. I had the pleasure of interviewing Miss Bäumel and hearing more about how she came to be, what she values, and where she is heading. Miss Bäumel has requested that I do not share any recordings, so today I'll be introducing you to her biography style. For ambiance, I'd like to begin with her website's homepage. It's interesting, and it may be difficult to understand what's going on at first. There are little drawings floating around on the screen, but these are not meaningless. Each of these drawings represents a separate microbe, and when clicked on, leads to a different one of her works. Microbes and the microbiome are a big part of Bäumel's style, and it is important to look at her background to really understand their relevancy. Bäumel started out in fashion, through those in her family who were already involved. She completed an education focusing on fashion and expanded to conceptual design, before her works turned onto the direction of combining the arts and sciences. She had little background in science to begin with, other than biology and science courses in school, but she began her journey in microbiology in a lab. She worked with bacteria not to become a scientist specifically, but to participate in something that genuinely interested her. Bäumel gained experience in the realm of microbiology by utilizing lab opportunities, interning at local universities, and eventually moving on to complex scientific papers. Bäumel is in touch with many scientists, including some in the United States. Looking at specific pieces and interviewing Bäumel about these pieces, I had to narrow down my selection to just a few. Most of what we talked about was kept broad, as her style and process remain similar in many of her works. We first discussed Expanded Self, part of a series that's published on her website. This is described as a living painting. The term living painting confused me at first. However, Bäumel did provide me some clarification. She describes using a 2-meter-long petri dish over 8 months, seeking to capture the human microbiome on an agar base. She describes the process of using paint for the initial color and watching bacteria grow out on its own. Bäumel discusses the silhouette of a person the microbes create and how it disappears as colonies of bacteria continue to grow. She finally discusses giving her piece back to the earth by scraping the agar and microbes into the garden and allowing them to flourish. I ask Bäumel about whether or not she attempts to save her pieces, whether as sentiment or for later use in an exhibition. She recognizes the idea of creating something, storing it, and bringing it back out to look at again, but states that her process is different. There is not an easy way to store bacteria for prolonged periods, and Bäumel even mentions the tendency for bacteria to overgrow a petri dish. She goes on to discuss how an art style such as hers requests a change in the artistic system as we know it, and the normalized process of storing things away. She draws attention to the importance of not possessing art to sell and simply observing the beauty of a process. Part of the beauty of Bäumel's work itself is its temporary existence and her dedication to capturing a process rather than creating a finished product. She agrees that she is process-focused. She describes making pieces as she is invited to shows, rather than keeping things in case. For her, it's about the process of learning, discovering, and making, rather than participating in any materialistic aspect of the artistic community. I ask her about her crochet piece. Crochet is an increasingly popular medium, and I don't doubt her skill. Bäumel describes working with a friend who has mastered the art of crocheting and states that the hands and handmade pieces allow us to communicate more complex topics. Bäumel describes how exhibitions and displays work relative to her art style. For bacterial cultures, she discusses the use of a copper plate to cool petri dishes from below and keep samples preserved. Even then, the bacteria still manages to overgrow its container. She recognizes that museums are not catered for her work, as it has to be treated more as a plant or something else living, rather than an object. Bäumel's work especially stands out to me because of how unconventional it is. Not in that it is radical or derogatory, but that it has to be maintained. It is not created and forgotten about like so much in the modern artistic world. She shows that there is just as much value to be placed on experience as a finished product. There is inspiration to be drawn from her, her ability to appreciate life's processes, and the lack of human control over so many aspects of the natural world.